47 properties later, I think we finally found the one. After COVID, Richard and I decided that we wanted our own practice. But not only our own practice, but we wanted to incorporate our own training centre within that practice. So the property search started. Now, when we started this, we had no idea what we were doing. All we knew is that we needed a property. It needed to be in the heart of London because a lot of our delegates are London based, but a lot of them come from Manchester, Scotland, Birmingham, Leeds. They get into London and then really we don't want them travelling outside of London for another hour just to come and see us. So being in the centre of London was extremely important. Little did we know how hard this task was going to be. 2020 came and went, 2021 came and went, 2022 came and went, 2023, I think we finally found the property. So welcome to our diary of how we build our practice and training centre. Now, this isn't designed to be a course in any way. This isn't designed to be educational. Formally, it can be educational. Informally, obviously take everything I say with a pinch of salt. Do your own research. But we're going to share everything Richard and I get up to whilst we build this dream practice that we've always wanted in the heart of London. When we started this, we had no idea where to look. The logical place to look was Google. Ideally, we wanted to be in Zone 1, but we did consider Zone 2 and Zone 3. The other issue that we had is we had no idea the size of the property we required, whether it's going to be 1,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot, 3,000 square foot. So the initial Google search was quite difficult because so many properties were coming up and we didn't really know what to look for. After speaking to a friend, she recommended that I find a commercial property agent. These property agents scout the property market for you and actually get hold of properties before they reach the market. So along came property agent number 1. I spent at least 2 years walking around London with this particular person, and we looked at so many different types of properties that were available. We looked at churches, we looked at museums, and we looked at a lot of different restaurants, which we were hoping we could convert into the training academy and dental training centre. After walking around London for about 2 years, we weren't really getting anywhere with this particular property agent. Along came property agent number 2. This particular person was introduced to me by a cousin of mine. And again, the search restarted. We walked around London again for a good part of a year, and actually we came across some really good properties. We were about to set up on High Street Kensington, then we were about to set up in Paddington, but for whatever reason, these properties just didn't work. Along came Pete Hickson. Pete Hickson runs RPA Dental, and for the life of me, I can't remember who made this introduction, but this man was a godsend. After speaking to him about the idea and what we were trying to achieve, he started visiting all the properties with me, and together we probably went to at least 15, 16 different properties, and he was brilliant. He came into all the properties, told me which properties would work, which ones wouldn't work. We even drew up some plans of potential properties that initially we thought would do the job, but turned out they didn't. In order to house a dental practice, the dental practice needs to have a certain classification. It's the planning classifications, and dental practices fall in Class E. This has just recently changed after COVID, so all the properties that I'm looking at, they should have a license or a planning application for Class E. So that's the first challenge. The other thing that's really important that I've learned is that the lease that we're going to take is protected within the Landlord and Tenant Act. Now, this is an act, I'm just going to summarise it quickly. This is an act that basically allows me to renew my lease without any problems after the lease term expires. So for argument's sake, if my lease is expiring in 10 years, I can renew it without the risk of being thrown out. Now, apparently the only way I can be thrown out is if the landlord themselves want to use that premises for their own business. Now, don't quote me on this. This is just what I've learned just by talking to a few people today and just by doing a little bit of reading. But that is going to be super important because the risk is, let's say the lease is 10 years and then 10 years later we want to renew and the landlord doesn't allow us because somebody else has decided to pay more money. I'd have to pick up the dental practice and move it somewhere else. And I've had friends who that has happened to, so I don't want to be in that situation. So I need that lease protected. The problem is the properties that I've been looking at in London, most of them don't have this protection. The second I start looking outside of London, this protection becomes a little bit more apparent. So 2 things that I'm really looking for so far from my research is that the premises is classy and that is protected within the 1974 Landlord and Tenant Act. Now, the other thing that's important to us is because we want to combine the Dental Training Academy with the dental practice, is to find a premises that has 2 separate doors. What I don't want in the morning is all of our students walking through the practice to get to the academy, because that can be quite disturbing for the patients. So ideally, need a property that has a separate entrance for the academy and a separate entrance for the patients. Now, I know I'm asking for a lot, which is why it's probably taken me 47 properties before I bloody found the one. So after about 4 years of walking around London trying to find a property, one does become a little bit disheartened. However, one day I was just walking in town, as you do, and I walked past this building. It was closed, it had a big Sainsbury's sign on it, and I turned back and I had another look at it. And I thought, nah, this is going to be way out of our league. It's absolutely humongous. But why not? I gave property agent number 2 a call, told him the address, and I asked him if he could find out some more information. He came back to me that very afternoon and said to me that property is no longer available. But the agent who was selling the property, or leasing the property I should say, was a little bit unsure if the people that were interested were actually serious or not. So I asked our agent to probe more and try to explain to the agents that was selling or leasing the property that we were serious, we've been looking for a long time, and this property seems to, so far, just by looking at it, fulfill a lot of the criteria we were after. 2 days later, my agent calls me back and says that we can submit a proposal. They will consider it and compare it to the proposal they already have, and will come back to us with a decision. So I got everything ready, submitted absolutely everything over to my agent, who then subsequently submitted it to the landlord's agent. In the meantime, I've been sent all the particulars of the property, which basically means what the rent is, what the business rate is, what all the different charges are, charges such as service charge, building insurance, because obviously I've got to make sure that I can afford this in the first place. The good news is I think I can. We are going to have to increase the revenue of the business in order to afford this, but I'm quite confident that we can do that. A week later, my property agent called me back and said that the landlords have decided to go with our proposal rather than the other proposal. So finally, we think we have found the property that's going to be Aspire HQ. Dental practice and dental training centre all in one place. Watch this space.